The night was cold on the broken colony world. The ground was dry, cracked like old glass, and the sky was heavy with dust. In the middle of that dead land walked a single figure. He was not human, but not fully alien either. His body was thin, his clothes torn, and his skin showed marks of battles long ago. To the people of this planet, he was nothing more than an outcast. The alien outcast had no home. He had no family. Both humans and his own kind had rejected him. When he tried to live with humans, they looked at him with fear. When he went back to his people, they called him broken, weak, and cursed. So he walked alone. His stomach hurt with hunger. He had not eaten for 2 days. His steps were slow, but he did not stop. He kept moving, searching for food, water, maybe a small fire where he could rest. The silence around him was strange. Even the wind sounded hollow like whispers of ghosts. Then he felt it. Eyes watching him. He froze. His hand reached for the small knife tied at his side. Slowly he looked around. At first he saw nothing but shadows and ruined stone. Then from behind an old wall, 2 shapes moved. Small, thin, and quiet. They stepped out into the pale moonlight. 2 girls. They looked almost human, but not quite. Their skin was pale like the color of snow, and their black hair fell in perfect waves. What caught his attention most were their eyes. They were too bright, too sharp, twin mirrors shining in the dark. The girls stood side by side. They looked exactly the same face, same hair, same dress. Their clothes were clean, white, untouched by dust. They did not look like they belonged to this dead land. The alien outcast tightened his grip on the knife. "Who are you?" His voice was rough, deep, filled with caution. The girls did not answer at once. They simply smiled. A slow, quiet smile like they already knew who he was. Then together they spoke. Their voices were soft, but when they spoke at the same time, the sound was strange, like one voice echoing in 2 mouths. "You need a home," they said, "and we need a bride for our father." The outcast's body went stiff. The words were so strange, so sudden, that for a moment he thought he had heard them wrong. "What?" he asked, his knife lowering only a little. The twins took 1 step forward, still smiling, still speaking together. "You are alone. No family, no place to go. We can give you what you need. A warm house, food, protection, a family that will never leave you. But..." They paused, their heads tilting slightly like dolls. Then they finished the sentence. "You must become the bride of our father." The air grew colder. The outcast felt his heart beat faster. This was no simple meeting. This was something else, something dangerous. He looked at them carefully. Their faces did not lie, yet something about them was wrong. No children should speak like that. No children should smile while making such an offer. His knife trembled in his hand, but not from fear. At least not the normal kind of fear. This was a fear that felt like a warning, like the world itself telling him to run. Still, he did not run. He was too tired, too hungry, too curious. What kind of father sends his daughters with such words? He asked, trying to sound strong. The twins giggled. It was a soft sound, but it did not feel like laughter. It felt like the sound of glass breaking. "Our father is waiting," they said. "He is kind. He is powerful. He is alone, just like you." The outcast shook his head. He wanted to walk away, to leave them in the dust. But when he looked at their faces, at their glowing eyes, something inside him stopped him. He wondered if maybe this was his only chance to find shelter. "You don't even know my name," he said slowly. The twins looked at each other for a second, then back at him. "We know enough," they said together. "We know you are lost. We know you are unwanted. We know you are searching for a place to belong." Their words cut deeper than any knife, because they were true. The outcast felt the weight of silence pressing down on him again. The wind howled through the ruins, but the girls did not move. They only stood waiting like they had all the time in the world. Finally, one of them stretched out her hand. Her skin looked too perfect, too smooth. "Come with us," she said softly. The other twin leaned closer, her voice like a whisper in the night. "Or stay here and die alone." The alien outcast stared at their hands. His hunger gnawed at him. His body begged for food, for warmth, for anything but the cold emptiness of this land. But his mind screamed with warning. Was this an offer of salvation, or a trap that would destroy him? The twins waited. Their glowing eyes did not blink. Their hands did not shake. The alien outcast knew one thing for certain. Whatever choice he made tonight would change his life forever. And still, the echo of their first words rang in his mind like a curse. You need a home and we need a bride for our father. The proposal, the outcast did not take the twins' hands that night. He followed them from a distance, silent and careful. Something about them kept him from walking away, but something else told him not to get too close. The ruined land stretched out for miles. Broken towers stood like skeletons of a forgotten world. The twins walked with light steps, their white dresses untouched by dust. They never looked back, but they seemed to know he was behind them. Hours passed. The outcast's stomach growled louder with each step. His throat was dry, his legs heavy. He wondered if he was making a mistake. He wondered if they were leading him into a trap. Finally, the twins stopped at the edge of an old road. A fire burned in a small pit, and beside it was a basket filled with fruit and bread. The outcast froze. Food. Real food. Not scraps, not the dry, bitter roots he had chewed on in the wasteland. His body begged him to run forward and eat, but his mind screamed caution. The twins sat by the fire, their faces glowing in the orange light. They motioned to the basket. "Eat," they said together. He did not move. "Why?" he asked. His voice was sharp, low. The twins tilted their heads, smiling. "Because you are hungry. Because we want you strong. Our father does not need a weak bride." The outcast felt his chest tighten. There it was again, the word bride. They spoke it as if it was normal, as if the meaning was clear. But to him it was madness. Slowly, carefully, he stepped forward. He kept his knife in his hand, but his other hand reached for the bread. The twins watched, unblinking, as he tore a piece and ate. The taste filled his mouth, soft and warm. He had almost forgotten what real food tasted like. He ate more, faster, until the hunger inside him eased. When he finally stopped, he looked at the twins. "Now tell me, what does your father want from me?" The fire cracked. The wind carried ashes into the night. The twins looked at each other, then back at him. "Our father is powerful," they said. "He built a home where no one else could. He has followers, servants, soldiers.
He has everything
except a bride." The outcast frowned. "And why would he want me?" The twins leaned closer, their voices dropping, but still in perfect unison. "Because you are not like others. You are broken, yes, but also different. You survived where others died. You walk between two worlds but belong to none. That is why he chose you." The outcast's heart pounded. "Chose me? He does not even know me." The twins smiled wider. "He knows enough." The firelight flickered, and for the first time the outcast noticed something strange. The shadows around the twins did not move like normal shadows. They stretched too far, twisting like dark ropes across the ground. He felt the urge to stand and leave, but again, hunger and exhaustion kept him in place. He had not spoken to anyone for weeks. Now here were two girls offering him food, shelter, and even family. It was tempting, dangerously tempting. Still, the word bride burned in his mind. He looked at them carefully. "What happens if I refuse?" The twins' smiles faded. Their bright eyes turned cold. "You will return to the wasteland," they said softly. "Alone, hungry, hunted. You will die, and no one will remember your name." The silence after their words was heavy, like a stone crushing his chest. He stared at the fire. The flames twisted, sparks flying into the night. He thought about all the years he had wandered, rejected by everyone. He thought about the cold nights, the empty days, the endless loneliness. Then he thought about what they were asking. To be the bride of their father. The word was still strange, still wrong. But the offer of a home, it was a dream he had buried long ago. "Your father," he said slowly. "What is he?" The twins looked at each other again. Then with voices soft as a whisper they answered, "He is more than human. More than alien. He is something greater, something eternal." The outcast's knife felt small in his hand. Whatever this father was, he was no ordinary man. The twins leaned closer, their voices calm, almost kind. "Come with us, meet him. If you do not wish to stay, you may leave. But once you see him, you will not want to." The fire began to die down, leaving only red embers. The twins stood, their white dresses glowing faintly in the dark. They reached out their hands again, waiting. The outcast stared at them, torn between fear and hope. Maybe this was a trap. Maybe their father was a monster waiting to devour him. But maybe, just maybe, this was his only chance to belong somewhere. He stood slowly, his knife still in his grip, his heart pounding. The twins' voices echoed into the night, soft and chilling. You need a home, and we need a bride. The decision was his. The journey. The alien outcast followed the twins into the wasteland. The fire behind them burned out, leaving only smoke and ash. The night was colder now, the air sharp against his skin, but the twins did not seem to feel it. They walked ahead with steps as light as feathers, their white dresses swaying without picking up dust. The land around them was broken, filled with ruins of old machines and twisted metal. Long ago, this place had been alive, cities filled with light, ships crossing the skies. Now it was nothing but bones. The outcast knew these lands well. He had walked them for years. Yet, as he followed the twins, the path seemed strange, like the ruins were bending in directions he had never noticed before. The outcast kept his knife close. He trusted nothing here, not even the ground. The twins moved too easily, as if they knew where each stone and shadow belonged. After hours of silence, he finally spoke. How far is this place of yours? The twins turned their heads at the same time, their black hair sliding over their pale shoulders. Their voices came together, soft and calm. Not far, but the road is dangerous. Many eyes watch us. The outcast's hand tightened on the knife. What eyes? The twins only smiled. They did not answer. As they walked deeper, he noticed movement in the corners of his vision. Shapes flickered in the shadows, too quick to see clearly. Once he thought he saw long arms reaching from the rubble. Another time he thought he heard footsteps behind him, but when he turned, there was nothing but dust. The twins never looked back. They never slowed. At last, the outcast stopped. Tell me the truth, he demanded. What is following us? The twins turned together, their glowing eyes shining in the moonlight. They are the hungry ones, they whispered. They are drawn to you, but they will not touch you while you walk with us. The outcast felt his stomach twist. He scanned the ruins again. The air itself seemed heavier, pressing against his chest. He could almost hear breathing all around him, though he saw no one. He thought of leaving, of running back into the wasteland. But then he remembered the food, the fire, the promise of a home. His body was weak, too weak to survive alone much longer. He forced his feet to keep moving. The journey stretched on. The sky slowly began to change from black to a pale gray. Dawn was coming. The twins walked without rest, without food, without even a sign of tiredness. The outcast's legs burned with pain, but he kept going. At one point, the twins stopped before a broken bridge. The metal beams hung twisted over a deep crack in the earth. The gap below was dark and endless. The outcast looked at them. We cannot cross this. The twins only smiled. Follow us, they said. They stepped onto the broken bridge, their feet landing lightly on the sharp metal. The beams groaned but did not fall. One by one, they moved across, never looking down. Their white dresses glowed faintly like light guiding the way. The outcast's chest tightened. He stepped onto the bridge. The metal shook beneath his weight. He moved carefully, each step a battle against fear. Below him was nothing but a black void. Halfway across, he froze. From the crack below, a sound rose up, like whispering voices calling his name. He gripped the knife, his heart pounding. He wanted to cover his ears, but he could not let go. The twins looked back at him, their eyes glowing stronger. Do not listen, they said. Keep walking. He forced his legs to move. Step by step he crossed, until at last his feet touched solid ground again. The whispers faded. The twins smiled as if nothing had happened. The sun finally rose, though it was pale and weak behind the dust-filled sky. The land stretched into hills covered with stone and strange black plants. The twins pointed ahead. There, they said together. Our father's home is beyond those mountains. The outcast looked. In the distance, a dark ridge rose, sharp against the horizon. Something about it felt wrong. The mountains seemed alive, as if watching him. They walked on. As the day grew, the outcast's body weakened. His throat was dry again, his stomach empty. The twins never offered more food, but they never slowed. At midday, they passed through a narrow valley. The walls of stone rose high, cutting off the light. The outcast felt trapped, like he was walking inside a throat of stone. He heard movement above, rocks shifting, claws scratching. He raised his knife. Stay close, the twins whispered. The watchers are here, he looked up. For a moment he saw them. Shapes clinging to the walls, their bodies long and thin, their eyes glowing faintly like the twins. They moved silently, crawling across the stone like insects. The outcast froze, his skin cold. But the twins walked on calmly, and the creatures did not attack. They only watched, dozens of eyes following every step. At last, the valley opened again and the creatures vanished into the rocks. The twins turned, their voices soft, almost soothing. "Do you see now? Alone you would never reach this place. With us you are safe." The outcast did not answer. He kept walking, but his mind was heavy. He wondered if this was safety or if he was already trapped. The father's domain, the journey ended at nightfall. The mountains rose like black teeth against the sky, sharp and cruel. The twins walked ahead without fear, their dresses glowing faintly in the darkness. The outcast followed, his steps heavy, his body weak from hunger. The path twisted through stone until it reached a wide opening. There, in the side of the mountain, a great gate stood. It was not made of wood or metal, but of something darker, like black glass. Strange symbols shimmered across its surface, alive with faint light. The outcast stopped. He had never seen such a thing. The symbols seemed to move when he looked at them, curling into shapes that made his skin crawl. The twins turned to him, their glowing eyes soft but unblinking. "This is our father's domain," they said together. "You are safe here. Safe." The word echoed in his mind, but it felt wrong. Still, he followed. The twins touched the gate with their pale hands. At their touch, the symbols flared brighter, and the gate opened with a sound like stone cracking under water. Beyond it lay a passage carved into the mountain. The walls glowed faintly, veins of silver and blue running through the stone. The air was warmer here, carrying the scent of smoke and something sweet, almost like flowers, but also mixed with a metallic tang, like blood. The outcast gripped his knife tighter. Every step inside felt like stepping deeper into a trap. The passage opened into a great hall. The ceiling stretched high, lost in shadow. Columns carved with twisting figures lined the sides, their eyes watching from stone faces. At the center of the hall, a long table stood. Upon it, plates of food and cups of dark wine waited untouched. The twins led him forward, their small feet silent against the stone. Servants appeared from the shadows, tall and thin, with faces hidden under dark veils. They bowed deeply as the twins passed, but none spoke. The outcast's heart raced. He had not seen so many living beings together in years, yet none of them felt alive in the way he remembered. Their silence was heavy, unnatural. At the far end of the hall, a throne waited. Upon it sat their father. The outcast froze. The man, if he could be called a man, was tall and broad-shouldered. His skin was pale like the twins, but streaked with veins of faint silver. His hair was black, long, falling in waves over his shoulders. His eyes glowed faintly, but unlike the twins, his glow was deeper, older, filled with something that felt endless. He wore dark robes, heavy with symbols that seemed to shift as he moved. His face was calm, even kind, but behind that calmness was power. Power that pressed against the outcast's chest, heavy as stone. The twins ran to him, their voices soft and sweet. "Father, we have brought him." The father's eyes fell on the outcast. For a moment, the hall was silent. Then slowly he rose from the throne. His steps were smooth, quiet, yet the ground seemed to tremble beneath him. "Welcome," the father said. His voice was deep, warm, almost soothing. But the outcast felt a coldness in it, hidden beneath the surface. "You have wandered long, haven't you? Hungry, unwanted, forgotten. But you are here now. You're safe." Again that word. Safe. The outcast's grip tightened on the knife, though he kept it hidden by his side. The father motioned to the table. "Sit, eat, drink. This is your home now if you choose it." The outcast hesitated. His body screamed for food, but his mind screamed louder. Still, he sat at the edge of the table. The servants filled his plate with roasted meat, fruit, bread, and poured dark wine into his cup. He stared at the food. It looked perfect, untouched, but something about it felt wrong, like it was waiting for him. The twins sat beside him, smiling. "Eat," they whispered. The father sat at the far end, his glowing eyes never leaving the outcast. "You have nothing to fear here," he said. "You were cast out by your people, but I will not cast you away. I offer you shelter, strength, family." The outcast looked up, meeting his gaze. "And in return?" he asked. The father smiled. It was a slow smile, calm and patient. "In return, you must become part of this family. You must bind yourself to us. You must stand as bride, not in weakness, but in honor." The word fell heavy in the hall. Bride. The outcast's chest tightened. He felt every eye in the room on him. The twins, the servants, the statues carved into the walls. He leaned back slowly, his hand brushing the hilt of his knife. "And if I refuse?" The father's smile did not fade. His voice remained soft, almost kind. "Then you may leave. The gates will open and you will walk back into the wasteland. But know this, outside these walls the hungry ones wait. You have seen their shadows. They will not spare you again." The hall grew colder. The fire in the braziers dimmed, shadows stretching long across the stone. The twins leaned closer to him, their voices soft as a song. "Stay with us. Be our family. You will never be alone again." The outcast's mind spun. He wanted to believe them. He wanted to believe in a home, in safety and belonging. But every part of him whispered danger. Still, he could not deny it. For the first time in years, he was not alone. And as he looked at the father's glowing eyes, he wondered if he had already stepped too far to turn back. The secrets the outcast did not sleep that first night. He was given a chamber deep inside the mountain, a room carved from stone with a bed softer than anything he had known. The twins left him there with smiles on their pale faces, promising he was safe. But the silence of the chamber was heavy. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The mountain was alive. He could feel it breathing. At last he rose from the bed. He could not rest. Hunger had been quieted, but not fear. He gripped his knife and stepped into the corridor. The halls glowed faintly, veins of silver running through the stone. The air was warm, but the warmth did not comfort him. He walked in silence, trying to remember the way back to the great hall. As he passed through a narrow passage, he heard voices, low whispers hidden in the shadows. He froze. The whispers grew clearer. Servants, their faces veiled, stood in the dark. They spoke in hurried tones, unaware of his presence. "Another bride," one voice said. "This one will not last," another replied. "None of them ever last." The outcast's chest tightened. He pressed his back against the wall, listening. The last bride screamed for 3 nights before he took her, a third voice whispered. And then she was gone. The outcast's breath caught. Gone. What did that mean? Killed, consumed, changed? He dared not step closer, but every word cut into him like a blade. "These twins bring him what he wants," the first voice said. But each time it ends the same, footsteps echoed. The servants fell silent and melted back into the shadows. The corridor grew empty again. The outcast stood alone, his heart pounding. He had his answer, or at least part of it. Whatever this father wanted, it was not love, not family. The word bride meant something far darker. He turned back, but as he did, he saw movement in the corner of his eye. One of the statues carved into the wall, tall with twisting faces, seemed to shift. He blinked. For a moment the stone lips moved, whispering. He stepped closer. His knife trembled in his grip. The stone mouth whispered again, soft as air. "Leave before it is too late." The outcast staggered back. His breath grew shallow. The statue returned to stillness, its eyes blank stone once more. He turned sharply and walked away faster now, his footsteps echoing in the hall. When he returned to his chamber, the twins were waiting for him. They sat on his bed, their white dresses glowing faintly in the dim light. Their faces were calm, but their eyes watched him too closely. "You walked the halls," they said together. Their voices were not angry, but there was something sharp beneath them. The outcast tried to steady his voice. "I could not sleep." The twins smiled, though the smile did not reach their eyes. "You will soon. Our father will make you whole." He frowned. "And what happens to those before me? The others?" The twins tilted their heads, their hair falling in black waves. For the first time, their voices were not in unison. One whispered, "They were weak." The other whispered, "They were unworthy." The sound of their separate voices sent a chill through him. It felt wrong, like hearing one body speak in 2 parts. The outcast stepped back. "And what happens to the unworthy?" The twins smiled again, and this time their voices joined as one. "They are forgotten." Silence filled the chamber. The outcast's knife felt heavy in his hand, but he did not lift it. The twins stood, their dresses swaying without sound. "Our father is kind," they said softly. "He gives life, but only to those who deserve it. If you stay, you will become more than you are. If you leave, you will die in the wasteland. There is no other path." They turned and left, their bare feet silent against the stone. The outcast stood alone, his chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. He looked around the chamber. The walls seemed closer now, the ceiling lower. The hum in the stone grew louder, like a heart beating. He whispered to himself, though no one could hear. "This is not a home. This is a prison." He sat on the bed, gripping the knife, waiting for sleep that would not come. His thoughts twisted with images of the whispers, the servant's words, the statue's warning. None of them ever last. The last bride screamed for 3 nights. "Leave before it is too late." He closed his eyes, but he did not rest. He could not. Because deep inside he knew the real danger had not yet begun, and when it came there would be no place to run. The following night the outcast was summoned. 2 servants, tall and silent, came to his chamber. Their faces were hidden under dark veils, their thin hands folded across their chests. Without words, they gestured for him to follow. He did not want to. Every part of him screamed to resist, but his legs moved anyway. The mountain's hall seemed to guide him, pulling him forward. They led him back to the great hall. The braziers burned brighter this time, filling the space with flickering red light. The long table was covered again with food and wine, though he had not seen anyone eat since his arrival. The statues carved into the wall seemed different, sharper, watching more closely, their stone eyes glinting in the firelight. The twins were already there, seated at the table. Their pale faces were calm, their bright eyes fixed on him. When he entered, they spoke together. "Father is waiting." At the far end of the hall, the father sat on his throne. He rose slowly as the outcast approached, his tall figure casting a shadow that stretched across the floor like a dark river. "Come forward," the father said. His voice was deep, warm, and yet heavy with power. "It is time." The outcast stopped halfway down the hall. His knife was hidden under his sleeve, his fingers tight around the hilt. "Time for what?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. The father's glowing eyes softened. "For you to choose. You have walked long in loneliness. You have known hunger, cold, and rejection. I offer you a place at my side, strength, shelter, a family that will never cast you away." His words were gentle, but they pressed down like chains. The twins rose from their seats and moved toward the outcast, their steps slow, their voices soft as one. "Say yes. Stay with us. Be whole." The outcast's chest tightened. He thought of the whispers he had overheard in the corridors. The servants speaking of other brides, of screams, of disappearances. He thought of the statue that had whispered for him to leave. And he thought of the twins, their strange smiles, their strange words, their strange eyes. He raised his chin. "And if I refuse?" The father did not frown. He did not grow angry. His calm remained, but his voice deepened, filling the hall. "If you refuse, you may leave. The gates will open. The wasteland will welcome you once more. But you will not last. The hungry ones will tear you apart. You will be forgotten as if you never lived." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the crackling of the braziers. The twins stepped closer, their hands reaching out, their faces gentle, almost pleading. "Don't go back. Don't die alone. Stay with us." The outcast's throat was dry. His knife trembled in his hand. He wanted to scream at them, to demand answers, to demand truth. But instead he asked only one question. "What happened to the others?" For the first time, the father's smile wavered. Just for a heartbeat, but it was enough. The twins lowered their hands. Their smiles did not fade, but their eyes darkened, glowing deeper. The father stepped closer, his robes dragging softly across the stone. "They were not ready," he said. "They were weak. They could not bear the gift I offered. But you are different. You are stronger." The outcast's pulse raced. He felt trapped, the hall closing around him. The servants lined the walls in silence. The statues seemed alive. The twins stood before him, their eyes bright, their voices soft. "Choose," they whispered. The father's shadow fell over him. His glowing eyes locked onto the outcasts. "Stay and become more than you are. Leave and vanish into nothing. The choice is yours." The outcast stood frozen. His whole life he had wanted a home, a place where he belonged. Now it was being offered to him, wrapped in warmth. But behind it he felt teeth waiting in the dark. His hand gripped the knife so tightly it cut into his skin. He wanted to fight. He wanted to run. But he wanted more than anything not to be alone. The twins leaned closer, their voices sweet, almost tender. "Say yes." The servants bowed their veiled heads, waiting. The braziers burned higher, shadows stretching. The mountain itself seemed to listen. The outcast drew in a breath, his heart pounding in his chest, and at last he spoke. "I—" The word trembled on his lips, but before he could finish, a whisper cut through the hall. Not from the twins. Not from the father. From somewhere unseen, somewhere deep in the stone. Do not trust them. The outcast's blood ran cold. His knife shook in his hand. The twins' faces froze, their smiles brittle. The father's glowing eyes flared brighter. The hall trembled. The air grew thick. The choice still hung before him. But now he knew he was not the only one in this mountain who could speak. And whatever voice had warned him, it wanted him to live. The twist ending, the hall shook as the whisper faded. Dust fell from the high ceiling, and the braziers flared, their flames twisting in unnatural shapes. The outcast stood frozen, his knife trembling in his grip. The father's glowing eyes narrowed, and for the first time the calm mask slipped. Power rippled from him, a weight that pressed down on the outcast's chest. The twins clutched each other's hands, their perfect smiles gone. Their eyes glowed brighter, almost wild. Who spoke? The father thundered. His voice shook the stone. Who dares break silence in my hall? The servants bowed low, their veiled faces pressed to the ground. None moved. None spoke. The outcast's breath came in quick, sharp gasps. The whisper had been clear, as if spoken right beside his ear. Do not trust them. Someone or something inside this mountain wanted him to resist. The father stepped closer, his shadow stretching long across the stone. Answer me, he said, his voice softer now but colder, like a knife drawn across ice. Do you hear voices that are not mine? The outcast lifted his chin, though his knees shook beneath him. I hear truth, he said. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out. The others before me, they didn't leave. They were taken. The twins gasped, their faces tightening. Don't listen, they said together, their voices trembling for the first time. Don't listen to the lies. But the outcast could see it now. The flicker of fear in their glowing eyes, the way their hands gripped each other too tightly. The father's gaze burned into him. They were weak, he said. They failed. But you will not fail. You will join us or you will perish. There is no third path. The hall grew colder. The statues along the walls seemed to lean closer, their stone mouths twisting into cruel smiles. The servants did not move, but their shadows stretched unnaturally, like claws across the floor. The outcast's knife shook in his hand. His mind raced. He could choose death in the wasteland or death here in chains. But the whisper still echoed in his ears. Do not trust them. He forced himself to speak. I will not be your bride. The hall exploded with sound. The braziers roared, the stone cracked, and the servants lifted their heads sharply, their veiled faces tilting in unison. The father's calm shattered. His eyes flared with light brighter than fire. His voice boomed like thunder. Then you will be nothing. The twins screamed, not in anger but in fear. They turned to him, their voices desperate. Run! The outcast staggered back, stunned. The twins' hands clutched his arms, pulling him toward the doors. Their eyes, wide and wild, no longer held the calm of before. Run, they cried again, before he takes you too. The father raised his hand. Shadows coiled from his fingers, black tendrils twisting like living snakes. They lashed across the hall, striking the stone, tearing through the table and food. The servants began to chant, their voices low and terrible, filling the hall with a sound like grinding bones. The twins dragged the outcast, their small bodies stronger than he thought possible. The gates at the far end began to close, the black glass grinding together with a roar. The outcast stumbled, his knife slipping from his hand. He heard the father's voice, deep and furious, echoing in his skull. You cannot escape me. You are mine. The twins pulled harder. Move, they cried. The black tendrils struck again, shattering stone beside him. Dust filled the air. The statues along the walls cracked open, and inside their stone shells, glowing eyes blinked awake. Figures began to crawl out, tall and twisted, their mouths opening in silent screams. The outcast's heart pounded. His legs moved on instinct faster than his thoughts. The twins guided him, their glowing eyes fixed on the gate. They reached it just as the black tendrils lashed again, striking the floor where they had stood. The stone cracked wide, a pit of darkness yawning open. The twins shoved him forward. He stumbled through the narrowing gate. Behind him, their small hands pushed with desperate strength. The last thing he saw before the gate slammed shut was the father rising from his throne, his robes twisting like storm clouds, his glowing eyes burning with endless rage, and the twins, still on the other side, smiling through their fear. "Find us," they whispered. "Free us." The gate closed with a sound like thunder. The mountain's hum vanished. The outcast fell to his knees on the cold ground outside, gasping for air. The wasteland stretched before him again, silent and empty, but now he was not the same. He looked back at the sealed gate, the symbols glowing faintly. The father's voice echoed faint in the distance. "You cannot escape." The outcast gripped the earth, his chest heaving. He had no home, no family, no safety. But now he had something else, a promise. He would return, not to be a bride, but to destroy what waited inside.